Very hard thing to concede because we know there was massive fraud. So as to whether or not I can get this apparatus moving this quickly, because time isn't on our side, everything else is on our side, facts are on our side. This was a massive fraud. This should never take place in this country. We're like a third world country.
Just to be clear, if the Electoral College votes for Joe Biden, will you concede?
Well, if they do, they made a mistake because this election was a fraud. Just so you understand, this election was a fraud. I mean, they have Biden beating Obama on Obama's vote in areas that mattered in terms of the election, in swing states. And yet he's losing to Obama all over the place. But he's beating Obama in swing states, which are the states that mattered for purposes of the election. So, no, I can't say that at all. I think it's a possibility. They're trying to, look, between you people, don't talk to me that way. You're just a lightweight. Don't talk to me that way. I'm the president of the United States. Don't ever talk to the president that way. All right, I'm going to go with another question. Go ahead.
So if the Electoral College does elect President-elect Joe Biden, are you not going to leave this building?
Just so you, certainly I will. Certainly I will. And you know that. But I think that there will be a lot of things happening between now and the 20th of January. A lot of things. Massive fraud has been found. We're like a third world country.
You know that it's tradition for previous presidents to go to the next president's inauguration. So will you attend?
I don't want to say that yet. I mean, I know the answer. I'll be honest, I know the answer, but I just don't want to say it yet. Look, a thing like this possibly has never happened before, but maybe people just didn't catch it. But we've caught it. We've caught hundreds of thousands of votes. Listen, excuse me. When they don't allow a poll watcher, which is a sacred person in our country, people don't know what a poll watcher is. A poll watcher it's considered sacred in our country. When they throw them out of rooms,
But that's not true. They didn't do
sure
that.
it is. And when they put them in pens,
Your attorneys admitted
excuse me, no they didn't, my attorneys did not admit anything.
Тот платит проценты за телевизор, а этот за туфли жены.
Кто?
Да магазины.
Они за тебя проценты банку платят, когда совершаешь покупки халвой. Проценты оставь.
Что такое халява? Что такое халява?
The FDA will not approve.
Халява это воровство. Либо, ну да.
Of the piano, which means
Никто не знал, что
lifting the key
это
only partially before we repeat it.
Просто как бы все
Now, if you're struggling with that, I have a tip. If you put the thumb or something, another finger, so that the key can't come all the way up, use your other hand. Hola, hello. Mary, hello. Lots of people joining. Bob, nice to meet you again. Do you see what I'm doing there? This hand is stopping the key from coming all the way up. So all I need to do now is to release this hand and see if I can find that same spot in the key. So in the key, not away from the key. Now upright pianos don't work like that unless you've got a Steingraber. I tried a Steingraber upright which managed to do that. Now if you're struggling with that, I have a now a long phrase, that phrase is really long. It goes from bar 28 to bar A flats at the beginning. We will hear them no matter what we do because they're obtrusive just by being repeated notes that are faster than the other notes. But Sheila's question related to the middle section, which is this. Big crescendo, a long phrase. That phrase is really long. It goes from bar 28 to bar 36 with one long phrase mark. So we must be careful not to chop it up. Few things. First of all, with the repeated note itself, we have to make sure that we don't lift the key all the way up. We need to find the escapement or the sounding point in the mechanism of the piano, which means lifting the key only partially before we repeat it. Now, if you're struggling with that, I have a tip. If you put the thumb or something, another finger, so that the key can't come all the way up, use your other hand. Ola, hello. Mary, hello. Lots of people joining. Bob, nice to meet you again. Do you see what I'm doing there? This hand is stopping the key from coming all the way up. So all I need to do now is to release this hand and see if I can find that same spot in the key. So in the key, not away from the key. Now upright pianos don't work like that unless you've got a Steingraber. I tried a Steingraber upright which managed to do that remarkably. I don't know how they managed because it's quite difficult to get an upright piano to respond that way. So that would be the first thing, just to keep that inside the key. Remember, the rain is outside, not inside, even though it's going to be a storm coming. So left hand, really important with the left hand that we voice it beautifully. I don't think there's anything interesting about voicing to the top G sharps. No crescendo yet. The crescendo begins only in this part, doesn't it? And if you remember what crescendo means, hello Viv, hello Janet, crescendo means soft. It means soft where we see the word crescendo. A lot of the time people just see the word crescendo and immediately play louder. But it's a gradual thing. So begin it. You could even dip down a little bit at this point. Save it, you've got a long way to go. Now listen to what's left of this, so that when you play your next melodic line notes, the C sharp and the E, they don't protrude, because we can't, if we play this pair of notes with the same amount of sound as we used on the G sharp, D sharp, we'll have an almighty accent in the line. So just listen to what's left of the sound here. Match it up. Then you can come back. Or suggest playing the right hand, let the right hand take the E at the top there. Octaves, the same thing, firm in the hand, don't have a floppy hand. If you've got a floppy hand, a floppy wrist, it's like, you know, this kind of effect. You're not going to get any sound at all. So let the wrist support the hand. And you see I'm right inside my key, and then Chopin has added notes here, meaning the crescendo is easier to achieve. Now I wouldn't call it a trick, a tip, call it a tip, which is in bar 38, if you pedal on the last beat, here, you don't need to pedal again for that. What's the sense in re-pedaling? Even though it's marked in the score, there's no need to re-pedal. So you can catch that resonance, and there's no struggle there with the grace note, which doesn't have to be played with the fifth finger, by the way. It may be played probably easier to play it with the pinky, but you could play it with the third finger if you fancied, or even the thumb, and let the arm travel up there. That's no distance for the arm to move in that time. So then we have the fortissimo. Keep close to the keys. Piano. And I vibrate my pedal in that bar 43, just a vibration of the pedal. So, you know, the crescendo is gradual. It's easy to do it too soon. I mean, it's tempting to do it too soon. Andrew, hello from Oz. Yes, nice to see you again, Andrew. And Diana, from a little closer. So I hope that's given you a few thoughts on that anyway. Yeah, I think I've probably covered that as much as I'm able to in this session. So Serena asks, how do you practice having direction and not stopping halfway in the piece? Also, I tend to have rolling notes and sometimes hit the note beside, especially for bigger intervals than fifth onwards. How do I overcome that? I'm actually an organ student, and my teacher sent me to take piano lessons to learn the techniques. It's a really complicated question, actually, Serena, because it's very personal to you. I would almost hesitate to suggest anything for the second part of your question, because it would all depend on how you're moving at the keyboard. my sense is that perhaps you're, as I've seen from organists before, they tend to do a lot of finger substitution, and they don't move in the same way that we pianists need to move. So my first thought was, you know, have you practiced broken chords? You can either do triads and just feel the connection in the hand from one finger to the next. So I have to contract my hand there, now I have to open my hand. So if you practice those in all keys, you can use the same finger. It's harder to do that when you put the thumb on a black note. Notice what I need to do is to move in and then back out again. Same goes for the fifth finger to a slightly lesser extent. If you have exhausted those and want to go a little further, try the four-note broken chords. And again, notice what I'm doing here. I'm moving my hand so that my forearm is behind the finger that's playing, behind each finger that's playing. Squarely behind the pinky, then I move via this lateral movement that I think some organists might not have installed. It's like software. Have you got that installed in your playing? So that would be one thing. And just to address your question about having direction and stopping halfway in the piece, I think that definitely is a practicing related question rather than a technique related question. I have chosen just at random a very, very simple little piece just so I can you know, illustrate using something very simple. Ola, greetings from Norway. First time I participate. Welcome, Ola. Nice to have you on board here. Right, so this is the menu. So this is how it sounds. Then something different. So if you find yourself, that's just the first half, if you find yourself stalling or stopping and starting, I would venture to suggest that you might be practicing all in one long stream rather than dividing it up. So I'm proposing sections. I've got a mantra which is slowly, separately, sections as a kind of elementary practice. It's like basic practicing. So slowly doesn't necessarily mean slowly, but it relates to speed. So we might change the
Welcome everyone here to News Now from Fox. I'm your host Mike Page. We want to take you out to this breaking news that we are getting from President Trump's legal team regarding Pennsylvania, everybody. So let me just read this coming here for you right here on News Now from Fox as we were just getting this in, and then we are actually going to take you out to Pennsylvania as well here. So just moments away from this update here as Jenna Ellis reporting this, that Pennsylvania court grants hearing in election integrity case challenging the constitutionality of Act 77. That's mail-in ballots here. So we're hearing the order right now. It says now, November 25th, 2020, upon consideration of petitioner's motion for emergency injunction, the subsequent filings by the parties, and the new allegations raised in petitioner's supplemental application for emergency relief filed at 11:42 p.m. on November 24th, 2020. It is hereby preliminary ordered and decreed there. And so that is important there, as Jenna Ellis is saying, the constitutional law attorney there and senior legal advisor for President Trump, saying that this is important because respondents are preliminary enjoined from doing so pending an evidentiary hearing to be held on Friday, November 27th at 11:30 there. So that is the big news coming there. It looks like they will be having a hearing on this for the mail-in ballots there. So we will continue to follow that here for you on News Now from Fox. But I want to keep the breaking news coverage going here because we're going to now take you out to Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Kim. Senator Mastriano, please.
Thank you, Senator Argel and Senator Ward. Thank you for being here.
Bonjour.
Bonjour les super étudiants.
Aujourd'hui, on va voir un thème très important. C'est exprimer son accord ou son désaccord en français.
Oui, alors on a déjà fait une vidéo sur exprimer son opinion en français. Bon, ce sont des thèmes qui se ressemblent, mais c'est pas tout à fait la même chose. Alors avant de commencer la vidéo, on vous rappelle qu'on a des cours.
Hey everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Noah Kelman, and I am teaching you all sorts of really fun and interesting modern exercises, tips, and tricks for jazz and neo-soul weekly. So, if you haven't already, please consider clicking the subscribe button and the little bell to turn on notifications. And please click the like button because it really helps me move up in the YouTube algorithm. Now, of course, just to throw this out there, this video is not for a beginner, right? If you're a beginner and you don't really know about the blues or how to improvise over a blues, I would recommend going to some of my more beginner starter videos. This is really a quick primer on the blues to get into talking about more intermediate to advanced stuff here. And we're gonna be talking again about how to now take the blues to the next level. All right, without further ado, let's jump right into this video about how to make a 12-bar blues sound really modern, really fun, and really interesting. So first of all, what if instead of soloing on an F mixolydian scale, we actually solo on a B mixolydian scale? So what we're doing here is we are actually going to solo essentially in the key of the tritone away from F. Tritone, right, what is that? Well, we count up 3 whole steps, okay? It's called the tritone because it splits the octave evenly, right? Whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step. So a tritone is F to B, that interval is a tritone. The tritone of F is B. So instead of playing F mixolydian, we're gonna play B mixolydian. Then when we get to the B flat 7, we're gonna do E mixolydian. So this is really weird, really crunchy, right? But this is just one really interesting thing you can do here. Then of course when we get to a C chord, we're gonna do F sharp mixolydian. So let's just take this slow and see how this sounds. So that's really weird, but really interesting. Now one tip I'll throw out there is this would really be considered playing out, right? We're really essentially imposing a totally different non-diatonic sense of harmony over our diatonic chord, right? Over our F7, we are doing essentially the tonality of B. In my opinion, playing out always works best when you let it lead you to a resolution. So you don't want to literally just play the whole blues like this, always just playing essentially in the key of B. You want to actually resolve back to the key of F sometimes. So here's an example. So what we did here was we actually played in B over the F7, but when we hit the B flat 7, we resolve back to B flat mixolydian. So that to me sounds really nice. We get this clash and the resolution. And it feels like the clash led us to the resolution. In fact, in some ways it's almost more satisfying than going from diatonic to diatonic, right? It's giving us this tension and we're releasing the tension. So going through a whole blues with this concept, it might sound something like this. All right, so hopefully you hear how interesting that can sound. Have fun with it, mess around with it. Also, really quick, before we move on, everybody, I just wanted to let you know that I have got an awesome Black Friday sale happening right now. So use this code on screen and click the link below in the description to go to my store. And this is probably the best discount you'll ever be able to get. So be sure to check that out. All right, now another really fun trick that I love to do this is something that I hear someone like Brad Meldow do a lot, is change all of our dominant chords to sus voicings. So instead of 1, 3, 5, flat 7, we actually get 1, 4, 5, flat 7, right? Now we could also, of course, do sus 13. So we've got 1, flat 7, 9, sus 4, and then 13 on top. So that's a really nice sound. So on F, we essentially are doing kind of like a C minor 9 over F. And then on B flat, we're doing like an F minor 9. And then when we get to maybe our G minor 7, we can replace that with an F minor 9, right? So we're making it F sus 13, B flat sus 13, G sus 13, and then at the end we've also got C sus 13. So 1, flat 7, 9, sus 4, and 13, right? So let's see how this could actually sound. So I was trying to, hit enough bass notes there so you could really hear how that sounds against those bass notes. And of course, this is a trick that'll work really, really well if you're playing with a bass player, because the bass player is going to be playing those roots and you are going to essentially be substituting these sus voicings. All right, now another one of my favorite tricks is actually pretty easy. Just sub out the second chord of each 4-bar phrase with the chord which is a half step above the first chord of that phrase. So our first 4-bar phrase starts with F7, right? And then it goes to B flat 7. Well, instead of B flat 7, we're going to do F7 to F sharp 7, okay? And then in the second phrase, we have B flat 7, and then we're going to, in the second bar, add in a B7, right? Okay? And then in the third phrase, we start with G minor, and then we'll go to A flat minor over the C. Okay, so let's see how this sounds. Or maybe something like this. So the second time through, I actually did B flat sus, and then went up to essentially B sus, right? So that was also a really cool way of throwing in that half-step relationship. All right, now the final trick I want to show you today is kind of taking from McCoy Tyner. We're going to slam a fifth in our left hand, and then do this F sus chord here, F, B flat, and E flat, right? And then we can move this chord up a half step if we want, or up in whole steps. So this gives us some really cool sounds in the left hand, and then in the right hand, we'll do some pentatonics, right? Using the F dominant pentatonic scale, F, G, A, C, E flat, okay? And then when we get to B flat, same thing. Add these fourth voicings in. Now honestly, on that 2-5-1, I might just go back to normal. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed these tips and tricks. These are to turn on notifications so you don't miss any more videos just like this one. I'm generally here weekly. Last week I didn't do a video because I actually spilled water all over my computer. Can't believe I did that still, but I did, but I am. So I'll see you next week.
speed to something either very slow or somewhat slower. Hands separately. Separately means hands separately, or it could mean lines separately, strands separately. And of course, sections is not starting from the beginning and going to the end. So if you find yourself getting stuck, what I've got here is, I guess, a number of 2-bar phrases, but they're not. You wouldn't want to play them as 2-bar phrases. You want to fill them as 4-bar phrases. So, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to start from the end. I'm going to start from bars 9 and 10, and if I'm happy with that, I can choose to repeat it, maybe once, maybe twice. Don't repeat it mindlessly. Repeat it with some goal in mind, maybe to make the phrasing a little bit more beautiful the next time. You might be focusing on that appoggiatura. But if you're happy with it, or when you're happy with it, just back up another 2 bars and work from here. So now I've got, working from the end, a 4-bar section, then I go back again 2 bars further, and so on until I get to the beginning. That's one thing. Slow tempo might even be as slow as this. Section might just be that much. Release. You see, and separate hands. Don't forget separate hands. And don't do it mechanically, work on the sound. You might want to sing lines. Make it beautiful. We're always after quality of sound, beauty of sound. Florence is saying hello from Narberth, Pembrokeshire. How lovely. Now, the other thing you could do with this is to work in bar by bar sections. I call this BBB plus 1, BBB plus 1, 1 bar and 1 note. Now I'm going to start from the beginning and do it this way. You can do this slowly, you can do this up to the speed. Let me show you how it works. Off, take the hands off. Now ask yourself, did that sound good? Did it feel? I noticed I wasn't really happy with my sound at the end of the bar. Now the temptation to go on is kind of as good as I can before I go on. When I go on, I start from the note that I finished on. I don't start again from the beginning. I start from the first note of bar 2. But this is a great way to practice. It doesn't matter what level you've memorized, but you want to test it out. Try it bar by bar plus 1 from memory. There's a lot more. Actually, there's a couple other things I did want to say about that. Very often we can simplify the patterns in the music by blocking. And I'm now looking at bar 5, which is written like this. But we can practice it like this. You see how that works? So instead of playing, I play that as a block together with my bass, or after. So we could do it this way. See, all sorts of possibilities for practicing. Now, the practice tools, I've written a lot about the practice tools. You'll find a lot of information about that on my blog, practicingthepiano.com, and on the online academy, and in the workshops that I'm about to do on the practice tools. So if that's whetted your appetite for more, come and join me on some of the practice workshops. Now Estella says, I'm currently working on Chopin Nocturne Opus 55 number 1, the F minor. My question is on the last page, measures 90 to 97. Well, yeah, actually I'm going to go from 89 because it doesn't make sense to start in bar 90. The left hand, for 7 measures. I lose those singing notes even if I keep keys depressed and right pedal down. Help, please. Let me see if I can help. Tagan, hello from Myanmar. Nice to meet you, Lou. Thank you for your comment. So the F minor, a very, very beautiful nocturne. Ends in the major rather gloriously, I think. After all this minor key music, we have a kind of glowing end. So if I do it slowly just to show you what's going on, the left hand does that, and we do change the pedal through. Let me show you with the right hand. Change, and hold. Now, if I lift up, I can still hear my my left-hand chord. It's not terribly clear. In other words, it's not loud, but there's enough sound there for this note, enough sound so that it does last out. So I think that really is probably the best piece of advice I can give you is not to be shy about giving this a good breakfast, because it's going to skip lunch and it's going to skip dinner. If you want it to last all the way through. Do you see, I've not even got my pedal down, but if I were to do that, and we could sit here with a stopwatch and just see how long that lasts. Now, I'm not going to do that because that would be silly. But, you know, provided you've given enough sound, you can't really take it with the right hand because I would have to keep my pedal all the way down. But actually, having said that, that doesn't sound to me catastrophic, you know, keeping the pedal down for the whole thing. So yes, anything else? That would be my advice there, Estella. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I did have a thought about the chords at the end, but I probably should be moving on. Chanami, hello. Bihui, coming from not sure where. Next question was from Stuart, who is working on the list arrangement of Schubert's Ständchen, the Serenade, and would appreciate help on bringing up to speed the